Hi, I'm Laura, and this is tropetrinitytrilogy. Today I'll be talking about my short story, We'll Meet Up Soon. So I wrote this short story for class, and the only criteria really was that it had to be between 8 and 15 pages. So, and of course, as an overwriter, I had to squeeze as many words possible into those 15 pages and had to keep re-editing because my first draft was 18 pages. Well, this is still technically my first draft. But anyway, I wrote it for class, and then the entire class read it, and then I had to critique during class. The critique was fairly nerve-wracking. I'm not the most nervous person, so I wasn't, panicking. But the entire class talked about my story, and I wasn't allowed to say a single word and just had to sit there and listen. And I took notes on everything they said. However, despite the nerve-wracking circumstances, I quite enjoyed it, and most of my reviews were positive, so that was great. Of course, there were some critiques, and they were good critiques, but I was pretty happy with how everyone reacted to it. And on my short story, I got a 93%, which is pretty good grade. It's actually, I found the whole being quiet while everyone else critiqued a very interesting experience, and I kind of enjoyed it. So for this video, first I'm gonna read the first page of this short story. This is a rough draft, so it's not perfect. And then I'm gonna read some of the critiques I got, which also, outside of getting it critiqued during class, every single person in the class marked up the story and wrote a paragraph about what they thought was done well and what was done bad. I got a lot of notes out of it, and I plan on rewriting it and seeing if I can do something with it. I'll just read my first rough draft page. I hope that my reading isn't terrible, but here it is. Clutching Jaden's tiny hand in mine, I drag him through the dense undergrowth. I watch the back of Danny's blue ski cap, afraid that if I look away, I'll lose him in the darkness. Despite trying to be quiet, branches snap under our steps. Our only saving grace is the loud gusts of winds carrying the same snow that covers our scent. Not that it matters. It's been tracking us for days. I'm tired, Jaden moans. Kneeling to his height, I look into his gray eyes. My gray eyes. Jaden, we have to find shelter. If we stay out here, we'll freeze. Jaden stomps his feet. It's not fair, Lexi. You always pick where we go. Ducking under a branch, Danny approaches us. Come on, tough guy. I know this sucks, but I bet we'll find someplace really cool to stay soon. Jaden sticks out his lower lip. I raise Jaden's mittened hand to my numb face. You wouldn't want to keep Mommy and Daddy waiting. I told them we'll meet up soon. Jaden sighs before nodding. Okay. I cough, trying to clear my dry throat. Danny gives his stupid grin. Attaboy. Jaden's full lips twitch into a tired smile. I stand and continue walking, Jaden's hand in mine. Branches scrape my cheeks while thorns claw at my jeans, but the cold has numbed me to the pain. Maybe a little too much, as I can't feel my fingertips, proving Mom right yet again that paying more for gloves with intentional holes was impractical. However, in my defense, when I bought the hobo gloves, I didn't expect that I'd actually become homeless. Danny comes back. Hey, I think I see a building. Shush, I whisper, my voice hoarse. You'll attract the beast. So that is the first page of my short story, We'll Meet Up Soon. It'll probably be slightly different when I write the final copy based on the notes I've been given. It will be the same situation scene, just some of the words might be switched to make it flow better. And one thing is I can make it longer now that it's not a 15-page limit. Yay! So now going to the critiques, I have to say, a girl came up to me and just told me she told me that she loved everything about the story, but she almost cried, which was the best critique I could get, and I was like, I'm sorry you almost cried, but I'm glad you cared enough that you did. That was probably the best compliment I could get on my story, and it made me so happy to hear someone say that. Right here is my teacher's critique on the story. I also took some notes because I went to his office afterwards to ask him some questions about what I can do with it, and I'm gonna read some of his critique now because it sounds pretty good and I'm vain and must brag about what my teacher said about it. But one thing I really liked about my teacher's critique that was kind of surprising was that I've never written a flashback before, but he actually really liked my flashbacks, and this is what he said about them. One of the really nice things about this story, We'll Meet Up Soon, is the way that it uses backstory not to stall the narrative, which is what backstory so often does, but to build tension. Each present scene ends on a mystery, in the LaPlante sense of the word, that keeps readers wondering that most basic question: what happens next? There are two reasons these flashbacks are effective. One, they are almost always concrete and specific. They show the reader how characters got to the present situation. Two, over the course of the story, they accumulate like a musical course, such that when we get to the end, we understand something we didn't understand before. In this case, through the shuttling back and forth between past and present, we come to realize the cyclical, stunningly bleak nature of life in this world, as well as the fact that Lexi has changed. I'm not going to read any more of it because it starts getting spoilery, but I was really happy to read that. And part of me was like, this critique is more poetic than my actual story. He's using analogies about musical course, whereas I'm fairly blunt, never written a flashback before. And the fact that he thought my flashbacks were more effective than just most flashbacks in general was pretty flattering. And I was like, thanks, man. Thanks. Exactly like that. No. One of the things that made me feel good at the critiques was that for everything one person didn't like, someone else liked it. So I know that I didn't completely fail at the story. I know there's one specific aspect that's a lot of people had an opinion about. However, after talking to my teacher, I think I know how I'm going to fix it. And I'm definitely going to add some details to the characters, especially since I have more page count now. It's still going to be a short story, but I want to expand upon it and see if I can do something with it. So I'm not going to read everyone's critique. However, I read the teachers, and now I want to read my favorite student critique. I'm not going to read the spoilers in it, but I just want to share it because it made me feel really good because it's so positive and funny. First of all, and let me be frank, I cannot believe that you just did this to me. How dare you make me invested in these characters, write the dialogue so exquisitely, give these characters personality, and make me fall in love with them and make me feel for their situation, make me worry about what's going to happen to them, make me almost cry. How dare you? Sufficient to say, I have literally nothing bad to say about this piece at all. It's perfect, just the way it is. And I have no criticisms whatsoever. I just don't. The dialogue was absolutely amazing, and it was done super effectively and super well. All of the characters, Jaden, Lexi, Danny, their mom, Richard, that random... that's a spoiler. That random man... They all had such distinct voices, they had such personality, they felt so real that I was honestly invested from the second they started talking. The mystery and the action was done so well. The pacing was amazingly done. The flashbacks were perfectly timed, and I loved the use of ellipses to tell us when you were transitioning into a flashback. It just made the whole story flow better and made it more cohesive. You knew how to give us just enough information to keep us guessing, but when we needed explanation, you gave it to us. In general, the story was just written so well, and I love everything about it. And I honestly have no criticisms or think that anything should be changed. It's literally perfect. And then they wrote, also, P.S. Can we be best friends? I literally love. I don't know what she literally loves, but she does literally love. But this was my favorite critique. She did add one thing she thought could be altered, which I agree with. It's one of the things I want to alter. It just made me feel so happy seeing someone so invested in my story. Remind me how on BookTube, how like people will read a book by their favorite author and get so invested that they'll like cry and they'll be like, I love this character, and seeing this reaction to it made me feel like I had succeeded at that, because that's what I want to do in a story. I want to make people invested in it. I want to make people care, and the fact that I succeeded at least with one person just made me feel so good. But also, has this happened to you that you've written this story, someone reads it and they find a really deep thing about it that you didn't intend, but they're so into it that you're like, yeah, that's great? Because that happened to me. Like, I'm not going to say what it was because it's somewhat spoilery, but two people read it and they found some really deep thing. I'm like, that doesn't make sense time-wise, but awesome. I'm glad you're think I'm super deep. Thanks. I mean, there are other things that people found that were deep that I did intend, just not that one. I have a lot of critiques that I like, but if I read every single one, I'll be here all night, because I'm filming this last minute because I'm a slacker. But anyway, that's pretty much all the critiques I'm going to read. I know the changes I'm going to make. I mentioned Beast in the first page. I need to edit the Beast some to make it more mysterious, I think, is the way I'm going. I'm going to maybe change one of the flashbacks. I'm going to write the new one, see which one works better, and I'm going to develop each of the characters more, especially the side characters. I think Lexi is pretty well done. gonna tweak what's in her head a bit. But yeah, so generally, little tweaks with the characters, little tweaks with the Beast. Big flashback change. I'm gonna write the new one, keep the old one, see which one works better. But yeah, so that's all I have to say for now. I hope you liked my little excerpt and found this interesting, and hopefully I will be able to do something with this short story, maybe send it to a magazine, I don't know. Later!